Welcome to the Lord's Word Facebook group. We're glad to have you here. Today we're going to be looking at Genesis 5. Now, in Genesis 4, we covered Cain's genealogy. In chapter 5, we're going to cover Adam's genealogy. Cain is not in Adam's genealogy because, as we've discussed and said many times, Cain is Satan's son. So we're going to go into Adam's genealogy, and I need to change pages here. So I'm going to start with Genesis 5, verse 1. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Now we're talking about when we're looking at man, if we go back to the manuscript, I know it doesn't say it here in your King James Version Bible. This evidently already upset somebody. The difference between Adam, the man Adam, and the man is the difference in the Hebrew of having the article and not. That's where we see that there is a difference between the races, when God brought all the races, and now Christ's genealogy. So now we're specifically talking about Eth Ha-Adam. From this point forward, we're only talking about Christ's genealogy. Verse 2. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. Verse 3. And Adam lived 130 years, and begat a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. Verse 4. And the days of Adam, after he had begotten Seth, were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. Verse 5. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. So he made it 930 years. Okay, so let's cross this point again. A day with the Lord is as 1,000 days. So when God said that ye shall surely die because they partook of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then they surely would die. In other words, they wouldn't live beyond a day with the Lord, and a day with the Lord is 1,000 years. So at this point, they're living to 930 years is where he died. Verse 6. And Seth lived 105 years and begat Enos. Verse 7. And Seth lived after he begat Enos 807 years and begat sons and daughters. Verse 8. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. So if you notice, they're just slightly starting to go down the length of their years. And verse 9. And Enos lived 90 years and begat Cainan. Verse 10. And Enos lived after he begat Cainan 815 years and begat sons and daughters. Verse 11. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. Verse 12. And Cainan lived 70 years and begat Mahalaleel. Verse 13. And Cainan lived after he begat Mahalaleel 840 years and begat sons and daughters. Verse 14. And all the days of Cainan were 910 years, and he died. Verse 15. And Mahalaleel lived 65 years and begat Jared. Verse 16. And Mahalaleel lived after he begat Jared 830 years and begat sons and daughters. Verse 17. And all the days of Mahalaleel were 895 years, and he died. So you see, they're shortening every generation. The length of their years are shortening a bit. Verse 18. And Jared lived 162 years and begat Enoch. Verse 19. And Jared lived after he begat Enoch 800 years and begat sons and daughters. Verse 20. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. Verse 21. And Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. Verse 22. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. Verse 23. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Verse 24. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Okay, God transfigured Enoch. There are 3 people in the Bible that God transfigures. One is Enoch, one is Moses. There's also another one. It's not coming to me. What we have here are that Enoch was teaching of the enemies. What was it that Enoch was teaching? He was teaching that we have enemies on the earth, and that who are these enemies? That they're deceivers, and that they are going to muddy the truth that's being taught. And so it's important to keep track here of Enoch, because he was an important figure, and he did walk with God. And he was so good that God did transfigure him. He was teaching in a way that many people didn't want to hear at that time, but he was teaching God's truth. And so he was taken from the earth by God. Verse 25. And Methuselah lived 187 years and begat Lamech. 26. And Methuselah lived after he begat Lamech 782 years and begat sons and daughters. So yes, Lamech is the same as Lamech under Cain's genealogy. But you'll find in the Bible that many times the same names are used over and over again. I like to use a Smith's dictionary that covers all of the different names from the Bible. You can look up a name and it will tell you all the different references, and it will talk about the different genealogies of the different individuals that are referenced. So if you have Mark more than once, you have the different references to Mark. I know we have Simon more than once, we have Judas more than once, and there are many that are more than once. So that the Smith's Dictionary, Bible Dictionary, will give you more information if you're interested in having another tool as a resource to verify God's Word. Verse 29. And he called his name Noah, saying, This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed. Verse 30. And Lamech lived after he begat Noah 595 years and begat sons and daughters. So again, we're shortening, the length of our lives are shortening. Verse 31. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. The verse 32. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now there's something to understand about the order of these children, because normally the eldest would be listed first and be the first fruits, and the youngest would be listed last, but they're in exact opposite order, and we're going to explain that in a teaching in the future here real soon. So we bring that to an end here, and I just want to double check my notes here to see if there was anything else I was supposed to tell you. The only other main thing to talk about that I didn't really cover was that about Noah. Noah was the 10th generation since Adam, and he was the first perfect generation. Now, what do I mean by a perfect generation? Uh, they had not intermixed with the Nephilim, the fallen angels. So when the fallen angels came, they seduce the women. And when that takes place, almost all of the people have intermixed with these, what will become Geber. We're going to talk about all of this in Genesis 6. But Noah is going to be that perfect generation. He's the only one that had not mixed. His family had not mixed, none of his sons nor their wives. And so this is the man that God has selected. That covers that information. I hope this has been helpful to you, and I look forward to bringing you Genesis 6 real soon. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.